I spent 2,000 days in prison, and that experience changed my life entirely. Today I want to talk to you about the learning lessons and principles I uncovered in a jail cell that helped me to take complete control of my life. I promise, if you apply these strategies to your life right now, it will positively impact everything that you do. At the age of 23, I was arrested and faced a life sentence in prison for a crime I didn't commit. In the blink of an eye, I was thrown into a cell where I lived for 24 hours a day. I had nothing, just a couple random books and some writing paper. I literally felt like I was dying in that cell, trying to make sense of how I ended up in that jail. I started thinking about the life that I had lived to that point. All I saw was wasted opportunities, excuses, how I had lived my life carelessly and taken it all for granted. I experienced the most intense form of regret you could ever imagine. I want you to imagine being in that cell yourself. Or God forbid, you go to the doctor next week and find out you have terminal cancer. Your life's coming to an end. What are the parts of your life that are going unfulfilled? What are the dreams and passions that you possess that you're not taking action on? What are the things that you want to be doing that you're holding back from? I want you to think about that as I'm sharing my story with you today. Being incarcerated, I was now a statistic. I was one of the 0.06% of people who are incarcerated in jails or institutions throughout our country right now. What I realized as I was reflecting on my life and how I chose to live was that I was a prisoner long before I found myself in that cell. I was held back by my fear, my perceived limitations, my excuses. It all prevented me from living the life I truly wanted and being the person in my heart I knew I could be. Every day was a struggle at this point. I realized early on that the most imminent threat weren't the other inmates. It wasn't being deprived, missing my family, or even the life sentence. It was my own mind and these racing, intrusive thoughts that were suffocating me in that cell. On the one hand, I had regret, and I was battling depression for the way I chose to live my life. And on the other hand, I was facing anxiety, immense anxiety, thinking about the future and spending the rest of my life in prison. I just knew that if I couldn't get control over my mental state, I had no chance to make it out of that cell alive. But what could I do? I couldn't just get up and leave. There was no recourse. What could I do? Anytime my mind would begin to race, every morning when I woke up, I started telling myself, maybe this experience is happening for me, not to me. Maybe somehow, some way, God in the universe has a plan for me that I can't see right now. That's all I could do. So every day, when my mind would start to race, I would tell myself, Sean, life is happening for you. This experience is happening for you, not to you. You don't know why, but you have to believe that. Every day, life is happening for me, not to me. I want you to write that down right now. Life is happening for you, not to you. And you have to believe that. Can you imagine if I woke up every day, just stared at those cell walls, thought about how I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison, how much I missed my family, how hungry I was, and all the bad things that were happening to me? I would have been ruined. I want to ask you, how often do you dwell on the negative aspects of your life? How often do you think about something that happened yesterday? An argument with a family member or friend, something that didn't go your way at work. Maybe you went 0 for 5 on sales calls and you're still dwelling on it. You wake up in the morning, the first thing that you do is think about your day. You think about all the things that you have to do. You look at it through a negative lens. You start creating these scenarios and predictions about how your day is going to go. When we fixate on the negative, we're at a disadvantage. Not only are we compromised in that moment, but our attitude, our actions, the way we interact with people, and the results that we get in our life are all going to be compromised because of that. We must train our mind to recognize the positive aspect of any situation we're in, or the positive potential. I don't care what it is, if it's some extreme event like this or everyday situations. When we do that, we're at an advantage. We're going to be able to keep our composure. We're going to be able to take control over our mental and emotional state and show up in the parts of our day and life at our best. Our attitude, our behaviors, our actions are all going to be positively impacted. And over time, so too will your results. This isn't forced optimism. What this is reframing the way you look at situations in your life to be at an advantage, to feel empowered, so that you can learn and grow through everything that you face. Look at that cell. The cell I lived in was so small I could actually touch both walls simultaneously. Can you imagine that? Here I was every day just fighting this internal battle. I was striving to survive. I was in a fight for my life. I knew that I couldn't just sit there every day and hope that something changed. I knew I had to take some form of action. If I just sat on that bunk every day and said, life's happening for me, not to me, just hope that something would change, I wouldn't have believed it. You see, it was my action that turned that thought into a concrete belief that changed my life. It's the action that proves to yourself that you actually believe it. What can I do in this moment to better myself? What can I do to better myself in this cell? I didn't think about the judge. I didn't think about the lawyers who didn't believe me. I didn't think about the cops who falsely accused me of this crime. I was just focused on the moment I was in. What I started doing every morning is I would get up and I would clean that tiny little cell like it was a palace, with pride, with effort. Then I would exercise, I would read, and I would write. That was all I could do to better myself. That was what I had within my control. I started doing this every single day, consistently. I didn't miss a day. The key for me was when I was doing these things, I would tell myself, I get to do push-ups. I have arms that work. I get to write. I have eyes. I could see. I get to write these letters home. I have people who love me, who want to hear from me. I get to. How often do you say, I have to? I have to go back to work. Oh, I have to go run to the store. I have to run these errands. When you do that, you're looking at your life through a negative lens, whether you realize it or not. You're going to lack gratitude in your life and appreciation for what you have when you talk about things that way. The have-tos are the things that you would miss the most if they were taken from you. Of course, I miss my family and I wanted to be free, but I thought about all the little things that I had overlooked my entire life. All the have-tos, I saw them as clear as day, and I wanted nothing more than to be back out doing those little things. With this mentality, focusing on what was within my control, being positive, and taking constant, relentless action, I started to feel confident for the first time in my life. I felt better about myself and how I was living in that tiny cell than I ever had. So many people lack confidence and they don't believe in themselves because they're not taking action consistently that makes them feel good about who they are. That's it. Small, consistent actions will transform your life. If you're somebody who has self-doubt, or if you're somebody who procrastinates, you're waiting for that big moment where everything's going to change, small, consistent actions will change your life. Think about it. The small things happen all the time, every day, moment to moment. If you're sitting there waiting for a big event, you're not going to be ready when that comes your way. The small little things are like practice reps. That's what builds up your sense of confidence and competence. I am. So when those bigger moments of life come your way, you're ready. That opportunity comes and you're there to seize it. Or that bout of adversity rises, you know you can overcome it because you've been taking action. You believe in yourself. At this point, I was sentenced to 7 years in prison. I had been in county jail for 8 months, going through a massive transformation, fighting this internal battle every day, taking any action I could that made me feel good about myself. At this point in my life, at 24 years old, I felt so proud of who I was. I had never had that before. I was full of gratitude, self-love. I had so much confidence in who I was and what I could do in my life. But I still had 7 years to go. My main focus became, how can I keep this mindset and energy alive? How can I ensure that I come home this version of myself, not the person that came in through those walls, through those gates. That's what I focused on every day. I felt that I couldn't waste a second. My greatest fear was that somehow, some way, that energy, that excitement to change my life, that mindset that I cultivated would just fade away. And I would go back to how I was before. I started creating a bulletproof day. From the moment I opened my eyes, everything that I did had to build me up and move me forward in my life. I wanted to do something great with my life. I wanted to be someone that I was proud of. I had to take action in order to create that energy and mindset. This started from the moment I opened my eyes. I would get up 2 hours before anyone else so that I could have some quiet time. Prison is a loud place. You have no privacy. I would get up while it was still dark out. I would go right into what I call Optimism Injection. I would think about all the good in my life. I'm alive. I have another day. I have legs that work. I can walk around. I have eyes that see colors, the little things. I was so grateful to be alive that day. I would picture all my family members' faces. I would just sit there and feel this gratitude and this positive energy swell up. The reason I started getting up early, the reason I wrote putting on my armor, is because I couldn't step outside of my cell compromised. I had to be fully aware and alert to be at my best. Prison is a violent place. People die there all the time. Things happen every day. I didn't want to go out of my cell and not have focus, not have awareness. I had to be patient. I had to be fully composed. I couldn't get out of character. My life was on the line. Getting up early in the morning allowed me to focus on being at my best, visualizing it, preparing for that day so that I was at an advantage, not racing out of the cell, fully in reactive mode, not prepared to live that day the way I needed to. How many of you have a morning routine? Raise your hand. Awesome. So this was before I read The Miracle Morning, before I saw what all the gurus were teaching. I did this instinctively out of survival, but over time it helped me to thrive and expand my mind like never before. Get up every morning, think about what you're grateful for, prepare to be at your best that day, and you will be at an advantage in everything you do. The second thing I started doing was creating daily non-negotiable actions. These were things that helped me to feel good and that I knew would move me forward in life. Exercise, reading, writing, the same things I did in the county jail. I just leveled up now. Instead of doing 1,000 push-ups in the morning, I'd do 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 squats before the sun even came up, before anyone else even woke up. I took pride in the way I was living. I started reading and writing every day. I devoured any book I could get my hands on. Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You name it, I read it. Every day, just doing whatever I could to better myself. I was able to take college courses. They had college courses in prison. I couldn't believe it. I immersed myself in my studies, and I fell in love with psychology, social and behavioral sciences, biology. Now every day I had actions to pour myself into that were going to benefit me. I did these things relentlessly. I didn't miss a day. I couldn't miss a day. My life was on the line. And that was the mentality. I was so immersed in my personal development, before I even knew what that meant. I was so immersed in becoming my best self that everything I thought about, everything that I did, had to build me up. Everything that I looked at had to trigger me in a positive way. How bad do you want it was a Post-it note on my cell wall. I would look at that every single day. It would remind me of all the pain that I went through when I was first arrested. All of those regrets that I felt, it would trigger all that emotion. I would spring up and take action. I don't care if I was sick or tired, if I was depressed and missing my family, which happened often. When I would see those words, nothing could stop me. I bring this up because I know a lot of people make vision boards, or they write these really positive, feel-good statements and they put them up on the wall. But do those things help you to change your life? Do they trigger you to take constant action to better yourself every moment when you lay eyes on them? Probably not. They feel good, they look good, but are they personal to you? Are they personal to you? Do they trigger emotion or some pain point that's going to compel you to take action? If you wrote, "Don't die with regrets," and you saw that, do you think that would get you moving? Or something personal about your past or your childhood? I know for me, if I wrote, "Be a better dad than your dad was," I saw that at my desk every day. When I went home, I'm fully present with my kids. I'm there in the moment. I don't have my phone with me because it matters that much to me. I'm doing whatever I can to ensure I'm at my best. I couldn't hold this in. I couldn't quell this energy. Every time I would call home or write a letter home, they were all the same. It would start off with small talk. How's so-and-so doing? How's the family? Immediately, I would go into what I was doing to change my life. I couldn't hold back. I would talk about every day what I was doing to better myself and what I was going to do when I came home. I had to believe in myself and breathe life into that version of who I wanted to be in every waking moment. Every thought, every word spoken, every action taken. I didn't waste a second in prison. Not one. How much time do you think you might waste throughout the day or week? Valuable, precious time that you'll never get back of your life. On average, we spend 2 to 2.4 hours a day scrolling on social media. TikTok videos, YouTube videos, Instagram stories. What else do we do that might not serve us? Now, I understand we need time to rejuvenate. It's okay to kick back every once in a while. Did you know that 2 hours a day of wasteful or idle time equates to 730 hours per year of your time? That's 1 month a year that most people spend scrolling on their phone doing things that don't really serve them in the moment. It's not just the wasted time, but what about time that's not spent being intentional? Do you have your days and weeks mapped out? Do you know what you're doing in 2 Thursdays from now at 1 p.m.? If not, you're not going to get the results in your life you want. You're not going to reach the potential that you are capable. I promise you that. Because when you have a vision of where you want to go, and you align your lifestyle and your daily actions to that vision, you're going to make every day count. You want to show up in every hour of your life as your best self. This isn't possible if you don't have it mapped out. If you don't know what you're doing next Thursday at 2 p.m., how are you going to show up as your best self? Probably going to show up maybe at 60%, 70%, on a good day maybe 80%. But are you focused? Is your motivation high? Is your attitude where it needs to be? This is what counts. This is what changes your life over time. If you have something new that you want to do in your life, or you want to cultivate, maybe a new industry that you want to go into for business, or a side hustle, some new revenue you want to generate, but you don't think you have enough time, an hour a day, 6 days per week, that becomes 288 hours a year that you could use to your advantage in whatever you want to do. If it's your health and fitness, you want to start taking care of your body a little more than you have been. You want to start prioritizing your health. If maybe you feel like you haven't been spending enough time with your kids, an hour a day, take them to the park, do something that adds up over time. Whatever it is that you want to do, 1 hour a day can change your life in time. I promise you that. Darren Hardy wrote The Compound Effect. It talks about what I'm sharing with you today, how small, little things over time create amazing results. The thing I want to share with you is it's a double-edged sword. Small, consistent actions that are benefiting you over time will change your life in a favorable direction. What if you're not putting in the work? What about the negative habits we form over time we don't even notice? What about those TikTok videos, 2 hours every night, when you could be reading, you could be studying, you could be doing something else? It adds up. It adds up over time. Kev? At this point in my incarceration, I was feeling better than I ever had. I was doing everything in my power to change my life. The one thing that we can't avoid, no matter how good we're doing, no matter how consistent we are, how focused we are, is adversity. You're going to be challenged every step of the way in your life. You can't avoid it. Every so often, late at night, the lights would be out, and my mind would start to race. And all of a sudden, the fear and doubt would surface. Can I continue to move forward in my life? Can I continue with this mindset? Will I just get out and fall flat on my face? All the doubts would surface. Can I sustain this approach? I had to remind myself of what I had done to that point. I had to look back on all those days, all those lonely nights, every morning when I took action to be my best self. I had to be my greatest advocate in that moment. I couldn't believe those fear-based thoughts. I had to remind myself of who I was and what I wanted. Oftentimes, that's all we can do is talk ourselves through it. We have to find a way to win. No matter what, every moment, every day for the rest of your life. Figure out a way to win. That doesn't mean that the situation goes the way you want. It doesn't mean that you get it your way. Oftentimes, it means that we just don't feel defeated. Maybe we learn something new. Maybe we develop more patience. Maybe we gain greater perspective. When there's situations outside of your control like mine, sometimes all you can do is ask yourself, how can I learn and grow from this experience? When you do that, you can go through countless bouts of adversity. You can go through the ups and downs in life and never feel like a victim or never feel defeated. You'll always feel empowered, like you're learning and growing every step of the way. That'll give you an amazing feeling. Nothing compares to that. I was about a year from coming home. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I was so excited knowing that I was going to get to come home and be reunited with my family. All I wanted to do was just get out and keep on this journey that I had been on for these 4.5 years at this point. I'll never forget, one Friday afternoon, the guard is walking around, and he's doing count. Right before everyone went to sleep, he'd count all the inmates to make sure everyone was there. He had a little green ticket, and he said, "Crane, you got a new job. You got a work change." And everyone's wondering what I'm going to be doing. In prison, you have jobs. You work in the kitchen, the law library, something to keep you busy every day. And on the ticket, it said SAP. When I read it out loud, everyone said, "Oh, man, you're going to SAP?" Substance Abuse Program is what it stood for. They were telling me how negative it was, how all the inmates didn't want to be there. They were forced to be there, how it was such a negative and combative environment, how the counselors didn't know what they were doing. And so I thought about this. They're all telling me how my time was going to slow down, how I was going to hate it. I couldn't work out. I couldn't do my college courses. I couldn't do anything that I had been doing, and my routine was going to be completely thrown off. I had the weekend to think about this. At first, I was really upset. I was like, man, 1 year to get now, this happens? Everything that I'd worked so hard for was now in jeopardy? Is this going to ruin everything that I've tried so hard to create in my life? I had the weekend to reflect. I came up with a strategy. When I went to SAP on Monday, I showed up not as Sean Crane, inmate number AN1137. I was Sean Crane, undercover prison psychologist. This was the extent I was willing to take my mind to preserve what I had created and found within me. I wasn't going to lose. I wasn't going to let that situation defeat me. I found a way with my mind to turn it into an opportunity, just like I had those 5.5 years in prison. I went there, and I listened to the other inmates. I watched the counselors. I didn't judge them. They had no control over the room. But it was a chaotic environment. And as I listened to the other inmates, I asked questions, and I observed them just like I would if I was a counselor or a psychologist. I left there that Monday. I walked back to the building with a tremendous sense of accomplishment because I wasn't distraught. I wasn't upset. I didn't lose my cool or my patience. I felt empowered. I learned something. I grew through that experience that day. I did that every single day for the next year. I learned something that continues to serve me in every moment of my life now. That is, nothing is good or bad. It is your belief in it that makes it good or bad. Never forget that. Prison gave me everything I have today. What happened after that first day is the other inmates were intrigued by me. What's this guy doing? He's different. They would come up to me in the building and they would talk to me and ask questions. Suddenly the wall was lowered a little bit. Maybe they trusted me a little bit. Maybe they wanted to know what I was doing to improve myself in prison. But they started asking me about my routines. They started asking me about my college courses, about my workouts. I started mentoring other inmates that last year in prison. I mentored about 20 other inmates and helped them to start taking college courses, helped them to identify things in their life they wanted to do different, helped them to build a physique they were proud of and generate that confidence. That was the beginning of me uncovering my purpose to serve people, to coach men out here. And that's what I get to do now. That was the beginning of me understanding what I was meant to do. That never would have happened had I not gone into that setting with that new perspective and challenged those old limiting beliefs. This is what happens when you learn how to control your mind. New doors and opportunities that never would have opened up for you will start to emerge everywhere. I felt like my path was just emerging for me. All I had to do was give my best every step of the way. Since that experience, I've been able to come home, create my own coaching business, and serve men all across the world doing what I love. Now, some of you have got my book in here. That didn't just happen. That started in the county jail with this pocket dictionary. Check this thing out. It's been around. I took it to every prison I went to, and I still have it. I don't use it anymore. But this changed my life. Because when I had nothing, I started looking up words that I didn't know in this dictionary. At that time, I didn't think I was very smart. I hadn't tried in school, and I had so many limiting beliefs. Every day, I would write down the words that I was looking up, and I would study them at the end of the week like I was a kid back in elementary school. That gave me the confidence to take those college courses when I got to prison. I never would have taken college courses. I would have doubted myself. I had proved through those daily actions in my jail cell that maybe I can. I ended up getting 4 college degrees and 6 months off my sentence because of that. I fell in love with psychology, and that's what helped me to learn about people and understand them on a level I never would have, as well as myself. That's what led me to writing the book at the beginning of the year and becoming a best-selling author. I wrote this book because I want people to know who are struggling with that same mental prison, those same limiting beliefs like I was, that there is hope. I don't care what you're going through. You can do it. You are enough. That's the message. And earlier this year, I was able to do a TED Talk. That was a goal of mine, a dream, a vision that came to me from my jail cell, just like writing a book did. That didn't just happen by chance. I'll never forget this isn't the first time I've spoken in front of people, by the way. In prison, at that drug program, I had to get up on a podium and share my story. My face got red. I was nervous. I was shaking. My voice was quivering, and I did not like the way it made me feel. I went and sat back down with the group of guys, and they're all clowning me. Like, oh man, Crane, what happened? You got all embarrassed up there. I took it as a challenge. The next prison I went to, they actually had Toastmasters. How many of you have done Toastmasters or heard of it? Yeah, it's an international organization that facilitates public speaking skills. I was in disbelief and enthralled the first time I went and I saw the other inmates speaking, how eloquent they were, and how they could captivate the audience and share a message that was impactful. I thought, man, I want to do that one day. When I came home, I started sharing my story on social media, being vulnerable, being open, getting used to speaking in front of people. Then in July, I got the opportunity to do a TED Talk based on my story, based on what I'm sharing with you today. I got to hit this stage, and this was a dream come true. This is a vision for me. It doesn't stop here. AT&T Stadium, I want to be over there one day, right? All right? And I'm not scared to say that. I'm not scared to pursue what I want. And that's the message today. You're all capable. It's just, are you taking action? Are you going for it? During my time of incarceration, what I learned was how to block out negativity, how to leverage adversity, how to create urgency in your life, how to increase focus. All through those steps that I told you about early on in the county jail. All by controlling how I thought, how my thoughts affected my emotions, and how that affected the action I was taking in my cell. If you have those internal attributes, nothing will stop you in your life. You could literally do whatever you want. Might not happen overnight, but it will happen as long as you never quit or give up on yourself. I want you to write down, life is happening for you, and I get to. Remind yourself of that every single day. My last day of prison, it finally came. Can you imagine the anticipation of that moment? Going from your life's over to there's hope, fighting every day to get to that moment. Now here it is. It's indescribable. It's beyond what words can express. The day finally came, and they didn't call me. I'm waiting. I have my prison blues on, and they didn't call my name. I was like, no, are you serious? What's going on? They were just late. They take forever. They finally did. I have my bag of stuff. I'm going to the gate. At this time, they were late, so they had to stop. They were doing shift change. New officers were coming on duty. I was supposed to already be out of the prison by this time. I'm standing there at this gate inside the prison yard. I have my bag slung over my shoulder. That's all I have. I have some books, some reading material, some journals that I saved, and that's it. I'm ready to take on the world. All of a sudden, they start releasing the buildings to go to breakfast. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to be out here right now. When you go home or when someone leaves, it's met with resentment, hidden resentment. No one wants to see another person leave. They want to be that person leaving. And you'll hear negative remarks said under their breath, maybe to the person. I thought that's what I was going to face. As they're walking around the track coming towards me, I'm thinking the worst. And all of a sudden, off in the distance, I hear someone yell, "Good luck, Captain America." That's what they called me in there. Maybe because I had no tattoos, I worked out, and I'm a white guy. I don't know. I'll never forget dozens of men, most of them who I'd never talked to and didn't even know, all yelled positive things my direction. "Go get him, Crane. Take on the world. You can do it, man." I realized people are always watching you, whether you realize it or not. They're always watching. The main thing that stands out is your attitude and your effort. Your children, your coworkers, your team members, everybody that you come across. I don't care what achievements you have, how much money you make, what material items you have. If you don't focus on your attitude and your effort, people aren't going to remember you in a favorable way. This has bigger implications about just business and money. This is about the legacy that you leave behind for the people that you love and care about most. Your children, your spouse, your family members. Who do you care about and how will they remember you? Think about that. My journey into entrepreneurship started the next day. Getting out of prison isn't as exciting or uplifting as you might think. It's pretty scary. I went from this controlled environment where I knew exactly what was going to happen every second of every day. I was able to conquer that environment because of it. Now I was out in this free world. Everything was fast-paced. Cars were driving fast. People were talking fast. It was crazy. I was overwhelmed. That first month, I stayed on my aunt and uncle's property in a trailer, and I had $200 in my pocket. I had nothing else. I remember just thinking, man, how am I going to make this happen? I know I want to help people, and that's it. What am I going to do to help people? I started going through my old contacts. I started reaching out to people and asking them what they were doing for work. I just started making connections. I came across an old phone number of someone who I went to high school with. He was working as a personal trainer in a gym back in Santa Barbara, where I'm from. I was in a county south of there. And he knew I was inspired to change my life. I told him I'd been working out every day. I had educated myself on exercise science. I knew how to work with people. I had been doing it. And he said he'd give me a shot, but I had to get certified. For the next 2 weeks, I locked myself in my aunt and uncle's office, and I studied nonstop, and I got certified. I took all the tests. I wrote all the essays. Typically, this takes 3 to 6 months, and I did it in 2 weeks because I was prepared. I had been educating myself. I knew this moment would come. I was set to go work at that gym and meet the owner the following week. Wildfires broke out all across Southern California that year and almost burned down my aunt and uncle's property. We had to leave. We were displaced. We had to evacuate, and we went to an Airbnb. And I remember sitting there thinking, man, what is going on? This is not the way it's supposed to be. I had a different vision. A week later, as the fires are clearing up and things are starting to get back to normal, torrential rainstorms come through, and there's mudslides everywhere. The roads are covered. The US 101 is blocked. We can't even drive on the freeway. Now I really can't leave. I can't do anything. I'm just thinking, man, maybe God in the universe is trying to send me a message. I'm meant to just live that mediocre life. Maybe getting through prison and being sober is enough. That's what I'm most supposed to do. I knew that wasn't the truth in my heart. I knew I couldn't lie to myself any longer. I had done that for years. And I knew the regret that comes with that. I had to find a way. I started going back through my contacts, and I found an old friend, Nick Carver. I'll never forget that name. He was a pilot, and he flew little single-engine Cessnas on sunset tours in Santa Barbara. I called him up. I said, hey, Nick, you still flying? What are you doing? I need a ride. He told me, yeah, I'm actually flying people to and from Santa Barbara that need to get in for work. I've been doing it every morning. I'm shuttling them back and forth over the freeway. What's up? I said, hey, man, I need to get into Santa Barbara. I have this new job. It's a new opportunity. I got to get there. He said, okay, meet me at the airport on Monday morning at 7 a.m. I'll fly you in. I got all my belongings. Maybe I had like a little bit of clothing at this time. Nothing else. Another bag, right? Over my shoulder. I was down at the airport on Monday morning at 7 a.m. And we flew into Santa Barbara. And as we're flying, he looks over at me and he says, okay, where am I taking you? Where are you staying? I said, I don't know. I have no place to stay. He's like, what do you mean? You're not staying anywhere? You have nowhere to stay? I said, no, man, I'm just going for it. I have this job. I have this opportunity that represents hope for the direction I want to go in my life. I'm going for it. He's like, well, man, my dad rents out rooms. Maybe we could go by there and he has a room for rent for you. We get into Santa Barbara and we go right to the gym. And I meet the owner of the gym. And I just show up as authentic as I can. I tell him the truth about where I just came from and what I want to do with my life. He gives me the okay to train clients out of his gym. And now I have a job in an industry that represented my opportunity to work with people and do what I love doing. Then we drive to my friend Nick's dad's house, and he has a room for rent. I give him all my money. I think I had like $500 at this time. Gave him everything just to secure that room. Now I had a room and a job, but I still needed transportation. My uncle had told me about a mechanic he had in town. He buys and sells used cars. Maybe I could find something. I go there, and I have no money. I'm just trying to find something that I could drive around for a little bit. He shows me one car he's willing to part ways with. It was a Honda Civic, but the whole rear end was just smashed in. There was no trunk. There was barely even a back seat. I was surprised it could even drive. But that's all I needed. I had a job, I had a place to stay, and I had transportation. And I never looked back. I showed up at the gym that next morning 30 minutes early. I parked around the corner so no one would see me. And I was training my first clients. That was the beginning of my journey into entrepreneurship. Can you imagine if just one of those things had stopped me and I had listened to the fear and doubt? This is the journey that everybody goes on. It goes back to that Post-it note. How bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to achieve what you feel in your heart? The three things that I learned in that time going from a prisoner, an ex-con, to an entrepreneur was, number one, always be so invaluable at what you want to do that you cannot be denied. I was so prepared for that job in the gym that the owner couldn't turn me down. He saw the look in my eyes. He heard the conviction in my voice. He knew that I was knowledgeable and that I could help people in his gym. If you're going for something new or different in your life, or you have goals and a vision of who you want to be, ensure that you are the most valuable candidate and that you cannot be denied. This goes for everything: parenting, relationships. Apply it to whatever you want. Number two is your social network. I couldn't have done that by myself. I had a place to stay because of my aunt and uncle. I had a flight into Santa Barbara because of a friend, a job because of a friend, a car because of an acquaintance. This is how it works. Use your social network to your advantage. Make sure that you have assets in your social network, not liabilities. Don't be scared to ask for help. If I would have been too prideful to reach out and ask for help, I wouldn't be here today. Every step of the way I've gotten help. It's not a bad thing. If you have a goal and you can get there quicker with someone else's help or encouragement or support, why would you not take that? Number three, willingness. Be willing to put in the work. Be willing to do whatever it takes. Be willing to take risk. Be willing to move forward in your life and not stay stuck because of fear and doubt. Every step of the way on my journey, I've never had a plan B. Never once did I have another option. If I did have a plan B, that would mean I didn't believe in myself. That would mean that I didn't think that I could do it maybe somehow. I had to believe in myself every step of the way. There was no option for failure. It was just find a way to get it done. About 6 months after I got hired in that gym, me and that trainer had an argument. There was a conflict of interest. And I was gone. My first thought was, wow, what am I going to do now? How am I going to make money? Where am I going to go to work? What am I going to do? I quickly changed that thinking to life is happening for me, not to me. I left and I started my own fitness company, and I started helping people all throughout the county and getting results for not just 10 people, but 20, 30, 40, 50 people. Then about 6 months later, my wife was pregnant, and she was going to leave her job. She was the GM at 3 restaurants. Suddenly, I realized I was going to have to provide not just for myself or for my wife, but now for our child as well. Again, those thoughts started surfacing. How am I going to do this? Can I do this? No, I get to do this. I get to provide for my family. I get to support them. That's an honor. What I did is I hired a business coach, and I started doing online coaching as well as coaching clients in the gym. Now I was increasing my revenue bit by bit. I was feeling like this was actually possible. And COVID hit about 18 months ago. And I'll never forget sitting in my living room in my wife's rocking chair at 4 in the morning, stressed out, thinking, how am I going to make this work? The gyms are shut down. I can't train any clients in the gym. I'm not really crushing it online yet. How can I support my family? My wife was pregnant again. I had $1,200 in the bank. I just knew that I couldn't go back on my truth. And I'd worked too hard and come too far to stop, that I had to find a way to make it work. I knew that I could serve people on a greater level, that I was holding back. I was being selfish because I was scared to talk about my journey. I was scared to be vulnerable and own that truth. But that fear wasn't going to get me what I wanted. I started going on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I started talking about my time of incarceration and how it helped me change my life. I knew so many people throughout the world were going through the same things at that time that I went through. The stress, the fear, being locked down. No one had gone through that. For me, COVID was nothing. For everyone else who hadn't gone through being incarcerated, it was stressful, it was scary, it was the unknown. I started doing life coaching for men all across the world. In the last 18 months, I've been able to help men from so many different countries. I've been able to help hundreds of men change their lives. Not just in the gym, but with their relationships, with their mindset, in their business, how they parent their children. This is what I'm meant to do. The universe is going to challenge you every step of the way to see if you are worthy of the truth that you feel in your heart. You all have a truth, a desire, a passion of that person that you want to be, that life that you want to live. I know you see it. Your greatest self, you know who that person is. That life that you would aspire to live, you see it. I know you do. Are you taking action every day to bring that vision to reality? The fear and the doubt is not real unless you give it power through your action, but you don't have to. I promise you this. If I was able to take control and change my life from a jail cell, you can too. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Sean Crane, everybody.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I meant every word I said up here, and I hope that it helps somebody in this audience somehow, some way.